if you're going for a bigger trip, I would always advise that you move early. So preferably before the others get on the road, at least the majority of them, that's a good time. If not, then you might better move a little bit later, that you're past the prime of the peak amount of people on the road. The thing, however, is oftentimes also transportation and the delay of the other ones that were there and they got stuck in the peak conditions have a detrimental effect on the time that you could arrive, so to say. So therefore, normally I would always advise go early. So the early bird catches the worm. Benefit is that you are traveling much faster than you would do in peak conditions because you have room on the road, so you don't have to wait and delay and all that other stuff that would also be frustrating. But the other benefit is that even if you have to travel a very long distance, if you're able to cover as much as distance as possible while there is no peak traffic on the roads, you can make them count. So for example, if you have like a trip of 3 hours and the first hour will be very light traffic, if you then are able to travel about half of the distance, that will really help. So if you then travel only 1/3 of the distance because you take it very slow, that is not going to help you, because therefore you will be sitting longer in the peak conditions, etc. Longer distance of road. So that's something that really helped me. In the past I had to start working at 7 o'clock and I got into the car at 5 o'clock. It was fantastic. I was able to cover 200 plus kilometers a single journey and be there on time. And also at night, if you were, for example, able to close everything and let's go this way. To close your work conditions, and then you, for example, at 7 o'clock in the night or 7 o'clock in the evening are able to go back to home, that's a good thing either. That being said, that will be a working day of 12 hours, and I did that, but it's better than that you can do it like only 4 or 3 days, even better, a week, so that you also limit. If you, for example, do this 3 days a week, you still have 3 times 12 hours, it's 36 hours. For some people that's an entire working week, and if so, you cover the entire working week in 3 days. So that also means that those 3 days will be long days, but you have more than 3 days of free time, namely 4 days. 4 days you have off-duty work, and that will compensate. Another thing to consider, especially if you have such a long travel distance to cover, so 200 kilometers single journey is 400 kilometers plus a day. If you can cut out 2 days, that will cut out 800 kilometers. That will cut out perhaps 1 or 2 times of filling up gasoline and a lot of time. So that will cut out 8 hours of time, which is not a normal person working days, 8 hours. And that of travel time you are cutting out. So in that way, please consider that if you have to travel long distances, please consider if it's not better that you have longer days, even though you already have to travel one way and the other way back. One direction to the work and the other direction back to home. But it might be worth it, because you then have the opportunity to cut out 2 working days. Other things that people consider is sleep over in a hotel, etc. But hotel also costs money, and you will be separated from your loved ones. Even though if you have to travel, work 12 hour a day, and even travel an additional 2 one way and and 2 the other way, that makes 16 hours. That's only 8 hours, and that's the normal time that you need for sleeping. Still, for me personally, if I can cuddle up with my loved ones, or perhaps cut out 2 days of sleep, 2 hours of sleep, and rest on 5 to 6, that could be worth it. For me, it's worth it. Also, when you're sleeping together, that's worth it for me. And the other thing is, a lot of people, me included, I sleep not so good the first day that I sleep somewhere else normally. So also that, even though you might be sleeping in a hotel, good hotel, it might be that your sleep will be deprived of quality because you sleep in a different location. Something to consider when you're doing long journeys. Other things to consider, if you want to ride frugally, then it's good to not drive too hard, of course. The other thing is you can also opt to drive in someone's slipstream, especially for longer journeys. This is good. However, that being said, my strategy is always try to cover as much ground as possible before the peak arrives. So that's a little bit counterproductive to driving as frugally as possible. But hear me out. If you get stuck in a traffic jam for another half hour, that also will cost you a lot of gasoline, because your engine will be working and driving very short distances and then cutting off again and restarting, etc. Will cost a lot of energy, and you will not cover any ground or almost no ground. So please take that also in consideration. Not only the mileage you get per liter or a gallon, but also look at how many time you can work in optimal conditions. Of course, if you're driving 100 kilometers an hour, your car will be a lot more frugal than when you're driving 130 kilometers an hour. But at 130 kilometers an hour means that you cover 30% more distance in the same time, which is also beneficial. So that's something to consider. Also, if you have a car that is a little bit lowered, that will help in your top speed, but also help with your fuel consumption. So your car will be a little bit more stiff, so you will lose a little bit less energy there. But especially because it's lowered, you have less wind resistance, which is a beneficial thing. If you want to drive very fast and still want to use the slipstream technique, you can wait for a faster car to pass by and try to keep on still for a while. If that faster car has a little bit of the speed that you're striving for, or a similar speed that you're striving for, in optimal condition, it might be a nice trade-off. Also, in general, if you keep your car below 2,500 RPM, some people will say even the best speed would be 2,500 RPM for fuel consumption and speed. So, for example, 2,500 RPM is 110 kilometers an hour in Super Switchboard hybrid. So that's still feasible speed. For me, if you are able to drive faster, for example in the Netherlands, you're able, if you're before 7 o'clock in the morning, you're able to drive many distance 130 kilometers an hour, and after that only 100 kilometers an hour. So that's something to consider. So you can exploit both ways. Also past 7 o'clock in the night, you're also allowed to drive faster. So that's also an additional benefit of making those longer hours at work. That's example. That chair a little bit back, that's better. Yeah. Also for longer journeys, if you have heated seats, this can help you out so that you come out without that stiff feeling of a long travel. So not completely pushing it all the time, a heated seat, but after, for example, 1 hour, 2 hours, you press it and you have 10 minutes heated seats, it might help you. Another thing, if you have good chairs, I like my bucket seats, but some people like more comfortable chairs. For me, the bucket seat is comfortable because it gives me good support, also while covering ground fast, especially through the bed, so that you are kept in one place. That's a thing to take into consideration. Another thing to take into consideration is adjusting the seat. So you might have your optimal seating arrangement, but if you're able to adjust it after like 2 hours or something, a little bit, or especially if longer trips, for example, we drove to Milan, Italy, which was over 1,000 kilometers. If you're then able to adjust it after a few hours of driving, it might be not the optimal condition, but your body is able to fit in a little bit different position, which helps, and it's not that much constricted in one single condition. Another thing that really helps every time we're driving, but especially with long distance, anticipate. So if you see some braking lights in the distance, perhaps lift off your foot off the gas. That helps save your fuel and your brakes. It will make the entire travel arrangement a lot more relaxed, because you also get a little bit more time. You don't have to go that abruptly. Good sunglasses will help you to keep the sun out of your eyes. You have also yellow glasses, which might be very beneficial with night driving. Night driving will also help you, especially if you're going to travel to warmer areas, that you keep the temperature a little bit lower. So you don't have to use air conditioning that much. And all in all, the heat in the car will be far less. So it's not only that you're able to keep the air cold with your air conditioning, but you still get the direct sunlight. But for me, I also really like it if you see different days, different times of the day during a big travel. So for example, if you go travel and start travel in the night, you will see the sun rising. But also if you start driving in the evening, you can drive, for example, the entire night. So the sun will be setting, then the sun will be rising again. That's beautiful. For me, it's really beautiful. And of course, if that area that you drove through during the darkest time of the night is very beautiful, you will miss out on that. So it's not a solution, one-size solution that fits everything, but it might be something to consider for you. Found my car? Out.